Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine dropping into what seems like just a casual online chat, a Twitter space. It kicks off with something really simple, like bananas.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Mhm.
But then it starts peeling back layers.
Mhm.
And suddenly you're in this wild, sprawling discussion. We're talking digital deception, really personal confessions, even like the whole complex fabric of modern life.
Yeah, and what's truly intriguing, I think, is how that kind of random start can almost act like a psychological warm-up. It subtly lowers inhibitions, doesn't it? Creates this almost false sense of casual security, which ironically might pave the way for some surprisingly intimate and sometimes, well, legally tricky disclosures later on.
Exactly. So this deep dive, it isn't just about what they talked about.
No, it's the how it unfolded and what that tells us maybe about the people behind the avatars, behind the screen names.
Right. So our source material for this is an actual recording. It's from a Twitter space, September 3rd, 2022, called Romance Scams. And it's got this lively group, the main host, Alberto Daniel Hill. He identifies as a hacker. And interestingly, someone who says he profoundly impacted Uruguay's justice system, claims wrongful imprisonment there.
Quite a backstory.
Yeah. And his co-host is King Burrito from Kimberley in England. She describes herself as someone who feels things very deeply, and she's learning to listen.
And we also hear from a whole range of others. There's Carl Doss, calls himself an advocate for the human race. Adam, he's an expert in cybersecurity AI based in Scottsdale, Arizona. Then there's Kay from Nottingham, UK, self-described nonconformist, MS warrior.
And it doesn't stop there. We get these surprising contributions too. People like Harambe, D, Advocacy Arena, Stacy Banana Bredsky, Itacia, MC Frontrun, Samantha Iaz.
Oh, and Rosemary, who identifies as a sex therapist. Quite the mix.
Totally. Each one brings this distinct voice, a different perspective. It creates this really rich, sometimes messy tapestry of interaction. So our mission today, we want to explore this deep dive specifically. How did the conversation actually flow? Who were these participants really? What did they share? And what can we maybe infer about their personalities, their psychological profiles, just from listening to these candid exchanges?
Yeah, get ready for some potential aha moments
Yeah.
about how people behave in these digital spaces. It can be quite revealing.
Okay, so as I mentioned, it starts, well, pretty innocuously. Bananas. Alberto, the host, admits he was lying in bed eating one, almost forgot about the space starting.
Ah, classic.
Right. And others, like Allie and Sam, they jump in, talking about loving bananas, potassium, joking about living on them. It's just very, very casual, almost whimsical.
Yeah.
Sets this light, informal tone right off the bat.
It really does. And that initial bit, it highlights the spontaneous feel of these spaces. People
Okay.
just drop in, conversation goes wherever. It builds an environment where at first people feel okay sharing trivial stuff.
Yeah, personal details.
Exactly. It's like a classic icebreaker, isn't it?
Subtly lowers the social guard, creates a bit of camaraderie before you get into the heavier subjects.
Well, it definitely seemed to work that way because the first sort of unexpected turn comes from Carl Doss. He joins, says he's just wrapping up, putting things in storage, and then bam, declares his new mission.
Which was?
Not letting people get victimized online or in real life. It's very dramatic, almost heroic,
Fitting for an advocate for the human race.
Right. He promises to come back and share details. Very direct, no-nonsense personality, maybe a touch of grandiosity. Quite an entrance makes you wonder. Is that kind of dramatic self-definition common in these spaces? Do people feel they need to immediately establish their brand?
That's a really keen observation. I think often, in these transient public forums, it is about signaling intent, but maybe also self-preservation or wanting to be seen a certain way, like a digital peacocking maybe, establishing the persona.
Yeah. And what's notable about Carl is that immediate switch, right? Mundane activity storage straight into this bold ethical declaration. It sets a tone of vigilance against online harm, which actually is a pretty good, if roundabout, lead-in to the main topic of romance scams. His advocate profile is clear right away.
And what a path it took. Because soon after, the chat drifts into this peculiar pattern. Men named Brian in romance scams.
Briar, specifically.
Yeah, Samantha brought it up. And Alberto, the host, actually started researching it live during the space, reading off signs of a scammer from like a Department of Justice document. Too much personal info too soon, luring to private chats, bad grammar, excuses for not meeting.
The classic red flags.
Exactly. And then Allie chimes in, confesses she's never been a victim of a romance scam herself.
Right.
Shows a certain self-awareness maybe, or
Yeah.
just a pragmatic approach online.
Well, this Brian thing, it's a compelling example, isn't it?
Yeah.
How personal observations can spark these broader discussions about patterns of deception, and turning immediately to official sources like the DOJ document. That's not just pragmatic, it shows how these scammer typologies often come from collective victim experiences and police patterns.
Right.
So even something seemingly random like the Brian thing can actually tap into widely recognized tactics.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then the conversation pivots directly to a really well-known example of digital deception, the Tinder Swindler documentary on Netflix.
Ah, yes, everyone was talking about that one.
Totally. They discuss how this guy used a Ponzi scheme, targeted Nordic women mostly, lavish trips, then manipulating them into sending huge sums of money. They even talked about how much personal info you can glean just from photos, social media, like bank card numbers, seemingly small details.
It's unsettling.
It really is. The ease with which these schemes exploit basic human desires, connection, luxury.
And that segment, it really grounds the abstract idea of scams in a concrete, widely known case. It shows the sophistication, but also the deep vulnerability, not just financial, but emotional manipulation too. And you can hear the host's curiosity about the how-to, the mechanics of it all.
Then, things get a bit chaotic.
Uh-huh.
A speaker named Harambe suddenly jumps in,
Okay.
makes this really provocative comment about English people being the devil, which of course gets strong reactions. Lots of English participants there, including the co-host Kingarito.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Then he starts playing these weird noises. He gets quickly shut down, labeled a troll. Alberto tells him to stay away.
Yeah.
The number of sharp turns here is almost dizzying, like trying to follow a conversation at a chaotic family dinner maybe, but with higher stakes.
Precisely. Harambe's brief appearance is such a stark contrast, isn't it, to the more thoughtful discussion? It really highlights the unpredictable nature of these open online spaces. You get people who want to disrupt or provoke, not engage, and the quick collective action labeling him, dismissing him, shows a kind of self-regulating thing happening within the group to keep the conversation on track.
Okay, but here's where it gets really intense. MC Front Run. He launches into this completely unprompted, incredibly detailed confession.
A confession? About what?
He recounts getting 5 iPhones sent to him from a scammer, supposedly part of a job interview process. He realizes it's a scam. And then he admits he stole the iPhones himself, sold them for profit, gave one to his mother.
Wow. Okay, on a public Twitter space.
Yes, and it gets worse. Later, he admits acting as a money launderer for scammers, taking 10% cut, sending money to different addresses. He expresses immense guilt over and over. But others are disbelieving, and Alberto flat out accuses him of being a scammer or co-conspirator.
So this willingness to confess to what sounds like, well, potentially criminal activity in a public recorded forum.
Yeah. What do you make of that? Is it a genuine cry for help or something else?
That really is the crux of it, isn't it? This confession is a compelling psychological study right there. When we talk about profiles, we're looking for patterns, motivations, emotional responses. MC Frontrun shows clear signs of a guilt complex, says he feels bad, repeats it, yet describes continuing the actions.
The narrative feels inconsistent.
Exactly. Which leaves Alberto and others to question his honesty, his motives. Is it genuine remorse or something else? And confessing publicly, despite the risks, it highlights how these online spaces, with their perceived anonymity or fleeting nature, can paradoxically become like confessional booths,
Right.
where maybe the desire for absolution or just understanding outweighs the fear of real-world consequences. It also ties into that discussion they had about Tornado Cash, the crypto mixer that anonymizes transactions. Raises huge questions about accountability, doesn't it? Especially with programmable money.
Absolutely. Then the whole discussion kind of spirals into this broader debate. Identity, hacking, online paranoia, often pushed by Zoe.
Zoe, okay, what's her style?
Very direct,
Okay.
confrontational even. She asserts everyone in the room is a hacker in some way, capable of gathering info. She challenges people's comfort with online data, says even just Googling yourself is problematic, and she frequently targets Ally.
Okay, so Zoe's personality comes across as assertive, provocative, pushing boundaries, questioning motives. That can make conversations uncomfortable, sure, but maybe it also forces some self-reflection. Her strong views on privacy, what she calls hacking, they seem consistent with her profile, a vigilant, maybe almost paranoid observer of digital interactions.
Indeed. And Ally, who initially just seemed like an artist interested in NFTs,
Non-fungible tokens, yeah. the unique digital assets.
Right. Then reveals much more. Her professional background,
Yeah.
conflict resolution, psychology, specifically systemic psychology, dealing with terrorist situations, multinational conflicts.
Wow, quite a shift from NFTs.
A huge shift. She explains a serious accident 5 years back left her unable to walk for years, which led her to Twitter. And Zoe and Stacy immediately jump on this, questioning why she didn't reveal this, quote, government-type work earlier. Allie says she feels attacked, even socially engineered.
Allie's layered self-disclosure is really intriguing. That initial guardedness, then the deeper reveal of a high-stakes professional background, it suggests a careful calibration of her online persona.
Maybe.
And the reaction from Zoe and Stacy questioning her authenticity, that highlights a common dynamic online, right? That tension between curated identities and the expectation of transparency, and Ally feeling socially engineered, which means being manipulated through psychological tactics, not tech exploits, that shows her acute awareness of interpersonal dynamics, given her background.
Definitely.
But it also suggests that even experts in conflict resolution can feel vulnerable when they're personally scrutinized in a public forum like that.
Yeah. This intense personal dynamic leads straight into a broader philosophical discussion. Trust online. People debate if knowing someone's extensive online history or socially engineering them is okay. Alberto, the host, mostly observes this conflict, doesn't really intervene directly, says he has confidence in Allie to handle it because of her profession. Stacy tries to mediate, points out everyone's info is already online anyway, the goal should be hanging out, not attacking. It's just a fascinating snapshot, isn't it? How these informal online chats can quickly become arenas for really intense personal and ethical debates.
Absolutely. That part reveals such varying levels of comfort and paranoia about online transparency. Alberto's choice not to intervene, framing it as confidence in Ally, that also says something about his observational style, maybe a desire to just see how these human dynamics play out. The tension between personal sharing and professional boundaries online becomes a central theme. Highlights those blurred lines between public identity and private self in the digital age.
And then the conversation shifts again, showing how easily these spaces become forums for reflecting on society. They start discussing the alarming cost of K-12 education in the U.S.
Really? From scams and identity to education costs?
Yep. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, potentially. The burden of student loans. They question whether you should study what you love or what guarantees a return on investment.
Reflects widespread anxieties about economic opportunity. It's striking how quickly they pivot from personal anecdotes to these huge societal pressures.
It is.
And that transition from digital deception to soaring education and housing costs, it's not just about economics. It reveals how those real-world financial pressures might make individuals more vulnerable to the false promises dangled by scammers. Promises of quick wealth, stable futures.
That's a really interesting connection.
Yeah, it highlights an indirect but potentially potent link. Systemic societal stress making people more susceptible to digital deception. Economic anxiety can lower your guard when you're chasing what seems like a better life.
Following that, they get into the skyrocketing cost of housing. Stacy shares this anecdote about her old Chicago apartment rent quadrupled in 15 years. Wages stagnated. Leads to talk about the American dream shifting. Maybe towards multi-generational homes becoming the new norm.
A reality for many.
And Alberto reflects on his own choice not to have children. Cites current economic and societal realities, considers it a responsible decision for himself, connecting personal life choices directly to these broader pressures.
It's poignant, isn't it? Those anecdotes powerfully illustrate that feeling of economic suffocation so many experience. Reevaluating traditional milestones, homeownership, family, shows how societal structures and economic shifts directly impact individual choices, perceptions of success. A compelling insight into how these pressures shape personal narratives and, as we noted, potentially influence vulnerability.
The conversation then tackles the value of education itself, credentials versus skills. Alberto really champions cybersecurity pros without degrees, values real-world skills, unconventional thinking over formal qualifications.
Challenging the status quo.
And Allie echoes this, argues empathy, respect, love are far more effective in helping professions than academic credentials. She tells stories of working with vulnerable youth, emphasizing human connection over formal training, and the importance of not fostering dependency in clients.
This segment explores a really critical perspective on expertise and value, doesn't it? Alberto and Allie's shared belief, practical skill, genuine human connection often outweighing formal degrees. It challenges traditional ideas of professional competence. And Allie's philosophy of service, detached from direct payment from clients, That speaks to a deep ethical framework, wanting to genuinely help, not create dependency. It's a compelling alternative.
Then another surprising voice enters, Rosemary, the sex therapist.
Okay, what does she bring to the table?
She immediately challenges the whole narrative about romance scam victims, states they are, quote, not victims of anything but emotional manipulators who want to be scammed.
Whoa, that's a strong take.
Extremely strong. She argues scammers are intelligent,
Right.
targeting people desperate for connection or wealth, asserts you can't manipulate somebody who doesn't want to be manipulated.
Hmm.
How do you see her perspective fitting into this whole discussion?
Well, Rosemary's contribution is highly provocative, obviously. It introduces this really controversial viewpoint that forces you to re-examine assumptions. Her strong, unapologetic stance, even when others disagree, reflects a deeply ingrained belief system. Maybe from her professional observations of human behavior, desire.
Could be.
Her perspective forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about agency, maybe even desire, within exploitative relationships. It challenges that simple victim versus perpetrator narrative, hints at a kind of transactional psychology, however warped.
Transactional, yeah.
It really prompts us to consider the underlying desires and vulnerabilities of both parties involved.
And her stance definitely sparks a heated debate. Some, like Alberto, try to understand her logic. Maybe victims implicitly accept a deal, luxury for emotional engagement. But others, like Kay, push back hard. Citing examples of genuinely vulnerable victims, the conversation really highlights the complexity, doesn't it? Discerning genuine manipulation from, I guess, consensual, even if self-deceptive transactional relationships, especially when love or money is involved.
That clash of perspectives really illuminates the multifaceted nature of human motivation. Rosemary's argument, while stark, prompts that deeper inquiry into the psychological profiles of both scammers and their targets. Suggests a co-created dynamic, not just predator-prey. It compels you to consider underlying desires, vulnerabilities, even biases like the gold digger trope, and challenges us to look beyond just the surface.
We then circle back to Alberto's profile near the end. He reaffirms his stance. Hacking is not a crime. Explains the difference between black hat criminal and white hat ethical hackers. Emphasizes ethics as the baseline for genuine hacking.
Defining his terms.
Yeah. Rosemary asks if he hacks governments. Then Alberto shares that profound personal story. His wrongful imprisonment in Uruguay, the first hacker jailed there. An experience, he says, taught him humility and shaped his current purpose, helping others.
Alberto's defense of hacking, coupled with that deeply personal anecdote of wrongful imprisonment, it reveals a complex character, driven by a sense of justice, maybe, a desire to redefine public perception. His vulnerability in sharing something so transformative gives real insight into his motivations, adds significant depth to his hacker identity, contrasting stereotypes with his lived reality. It's a powerful moment of self-revelation.
So after all that, what does this all mean? We literally started with bananas. And we traverse through romance scams, intense personal confessions, even the economics of education and housing. It's truly remarkable, isn't it, how a single online space can become this microcosm of broader human experiences and societal challenges.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, yeah, this conversation really illuminates that inherent human need for connection, understanding, even confession sometimes, all playing out within this rapidly evolving landscape of digital interaction. The willingness of people to reveal deeply personal details, confront accusations, defend their views in a public recorded forum, it's a potent illustration of how online identity can be both a shield and a canvas for self-expression.
From Alberto's almost stoic observation of human dynamics to Ollie's clear frustration at being scrutinized, and even Rosemary's really controversial take on victimhood. Each voice painted such a vivid picture. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much of our authentic selves do we actually bring to these digital platforms, and how much is maybe a curated performance?
And that raises a critical question, I think, for anyone navigating this digital world. How do we, knowing about these intricate social dynamics, these deceptive tactics, how do we discern genuine connection from strategic manipulation, especially when those lines between personal and professional, even fact and fiction, can get so incredibly blurred online?
Yeah. And maybe for you, as you navigate your own digital spaces, consider this. What subtle cues do you notice in online conversations? Cues that might reveal the true motivations, or perhaps the hidden depths, of the people you interact with. The next time you're scrolling, maybe just pause. Reflect on the layers beneath the surface. You won't be surprised by what you find.